Happy Sunday, Tampa Bay. We're with you for another week here on the Duncan Duo Real Estate Show on WFLA News, like we are every Sunday at 10. Andrew Duncan with the Duncan Duo team at LPT Realty. Excited to talk to you about all things going on in real estate across the country and in the Tampa Bay area. And I'm going to start off the show today with our featured property. And, before I tell you about it, I want to tell you that, I think there is a movement to Florida that is on, kind of on the cusp of reigniting. And, pre-COVID, we had this, or during COVID, we had this huge movement of people here that were motivated politically. They were motivated by the lockdowns in other parts of the country. And then, of course, from a sales tax perspective, plenty of people, when you look at some of the higher, or not sales tax, the income tax. When you look at higher state income tax states and then local and municipalities that charge, city income taxes, and when all that was shut down, people looked at that and said, hey, I'm paying all this extra money, but I'm not being able to go to the parks. I'm not being able to take advantage of the things that my taxes pay for. So what you found, and of course, schools are all closed, right? So what you found was this movement of people here that was motivated by actions of the government or inaction of the governments in those areas. And I think we're going to see another wave of that. I believe we're going to see another move of people here coming up in the next couple of years. Number one, you continue to see some parts of the country go further left. New York, for example, I believe if, Mabry is elected the mayor, I think we're going to see a movement of people from New York here to the Tampa Bay area and to the rest of the state of Florida. And then secondly, I think that these discussions that DeSantis is having about the possibility of abolishing property taxes. Now, I don't know when it's all said and done what ends up it getting on the ballot next year. Because if it gets on the ballot next year, it's not happening until the following year. However, I want you guys to understand something, that smart people, smart money moves ahead of the market. Okay. Interest rates in this country are a great phenomenon and understanding of that, because we saw the Fed cut this week and mortgage rates didn't drop, and everyone that really isn't in the know and doesn't do this every day. Every time the Fed drops rates, I get these questions. Well, why didn't mortgage rates drop? Because the Fed rate is really kind of a, not directly impacting mortgage rates. It has some, relation, but it's not a direct impact. And because the market moves ahead of the prediction and the news. So same thing with the stock market. If you look at how highly valued some of these AI and tech companies are right now that aren't making profit. It's because the market is moving ahead of the belief that there's going to be revolutionary change and then massive profit and changes within industry. So I believe the same thing will apply to our real estate market in terms of this news that is going to move people. The discussion of property taxes being abolished and the reasonable belief that it could happen, or some other major reform to maybe not necessarily abolish it all the way, but massively reduce it. I believe it's heading in a direction that that people are going to start moving here in anticipation of that. Reason being, similar to why people would invest in industries ahead of time or mortgage rates would move ahead of time, is because they want to get ahead of that curve. So people believe that if property taxes are abolished, that we would see this huge, movement in the market and appreciation. And I think that's completely accurate. If we do see it abolished for homestead properties, because that's what's on the agenda, basically. It's not commercial properties, it's not hedge funds, it's not your rental properties, it's not your investment properties, it's not your flips. It's the properties that you occupy as your homestead. Those are the ones that they're talking about abolishing or potentially massive reform that would dramatically reduce property taxes. And so the reason why I believe that this will dramatically appreciate our real estate, and I think people will start moving ahead of that, is because history has told us that it will. People don't buy real estate based on the price. Most people, okay? They don't buy based on the price. They buy based on the payment. It's why, the time periods where our market has seen a massive appreciation The highest appreciation rates, 25 to 30% during the COVID years, was when we were at our lowest rate, aka lowest payments. Okay, so what happens when you take property taxes out of that escrow and people don't have to, pay them anymore for their homestead property, which is a strong portion of the market. Probably a third of properties in Florida are homesteaded, roughly, according to some AI and different statistical searches I did. Now, the second part of that is so you eliminate property taxes out of that payment, and rates drop a little bit more, and your payments line up with similar numbers pre-COVID, where we saw this huge, crazy cycle of real estate. I believe that same thing repeats itself, and it positions Florida against many other states from an affordability perspective on monthly payment, okay? People are buying for monthly payment, even if rates don't get to what they used to, but property taxes go away. Those payments line up with comparable figures to what they were when we saw the huge run up in the market. And I think the market will move ahead of that. I think we'll see people move here. Now, why does that matter to the property that I'm about to tell you guys about is because I believe we've got this huge movement in Florida with all these people moving from these other parts of the country that want land, okay? Number one, you can't make more land. Number two, you have these enormous AI and tech companies buying up huge swaths of land because they need them to generate energy. That is the one thing holding back a lot of the tech in this country and a lot of the involvement of AI is data centers and the ability to have power to power data centers and GPUs. So land becomes an even more valuable commodity, number one. And number two, you can't create more of it. And because we're moving people from areas that are maybe very dense, they're coming to Florida and saying, I don't want that lifestyle anymore. And I literally just had an experience with this because I had an attorney that is a client of ours that moved here from New York, was living in a condo in an apartment in Manhattan, living the Manhattan lifestyle, and he moved here and he bought 50 acres out in the country. So people are moving to Florida, and a lot of them want land. And so we've got a parcel at 1915 Buffalo Lake Trail in Fort Meade. This is a 34.4 acre with 8.78 acres of lakefront, okay? This is wide open, waterfront, beautiful. This would be an exceptional property to build an estate. It could be a great opportunity to, for a farm, for pasture, agricultural operations. It's a tranquil rural setting with waterfront. You could boat, fish, enjoy. There's so much opportunity going around this area, and a rare opportunity at that for this much waterfront property. So this is listed at 1.15, which 1.15 million, 26,627 an acre. You can confirm land use details with Polk County, but because of the flexibility of the property and its location, there's a lot of different uses that could be put in. You could, build a home. You could run your business from another portion of the parcel. You could make it a multifamily type opportunity. But again, 34.41 acres with 8.78 acres of lakefront, wide open space, waterfront beauty on Lake Buffalo in Fort Meade, listed at 1.15. You can get more information on that at theduncanduo.com. You can also Google the address and, Buffalo Lake. It'll pop up pretty much wherever you Google it. And 43.19 acres of total land. And so as we see this movement towards Florida, we're seeing more and more people want these estate type properties because, they've lived in areas where maybe it was more dense or they're moving. Amazingly, we're getting people moving from California. We've not gotten that in the past very often. I'm seeing more of that than I've ever seen. So land has become, high demand. And because of all these converging factors that are happening, I believe, that now is probably one of the best times to buy property, specifically, residential geared property because of some of these tax advantages that we've seen in a long time. So if you're a buyer and you've been sitting on the fence, and even if you're buying other property, understand this. Okay. People might say, oh, well, it's only going to impact homestead properties, so it's not going to help my value. And that's inaccurate thinking, okay? Because a lot of rental properties have the potential to be homestead properties. And by homestead properties getting more demand, that will fuel more investment opportunities, okay? It'll fuel people moving here. It'll fuel the entire real estate market. Everything will improve, even commercial and even rental properties in our market. Even if those properties don't get property tax changes, the changes being made to the homestead properties will move more people here, will want more people investing, and it'll just be a domino effect. So, the idea that it won't impact other segments of real estate is a false one, because it absolutely will. The other thing to look at is, when you look at and you say, well, only a third of the properties are homesteaded, probably at least another third are capable of being homesteaded. Okay. They're rental properties that could be turned into a homestead that then become attractive at resale. Those investors might exit those and then move that money into other, those transactions create momentum. It'll create more transactions. It'll massively improve our market. And I believe the process of the market moving towards the interest rate drops, the fact that our prices have, it can't really get any better from a standpoint of value, and people moving towards the possibility of our property tax reform. In addition to, so far, we got a few more weeks, but it looks like a clean hurricane season for Tampa Bay. So 26 and 27 look really bright for real estate. If you're sitting on the fence thinking about buying, stop waiting. You don't want to miss it. I think this is one of the best opportunities I've seen over my 20-year career for a buyer to buy, and within a couple of years be in a very good equity position, simply from these things that I believe are going to propel and give momentum to our market. And I think that the movement on taxes wants to position Florida as an attractive place to move people here again. And it's working. It is working. You can see it's working on social media because you can look at the comments that are coming from other people around the country talking about, if that happens, I'm moving. Okay. The real estate supply and demand. Okay. When our market isn't great, we have high supply and low demand. This will be just an absolute steroid shot to demand, because it won't just be demand from our local market. It will be demand from the United States of America, because it will position us against other areas. And we've never had a time where more people are capable of working from home, running businesses from home, working remotely. So again, I believe that now is one of the best times that you could think of to buy real estate. And it's simply because the long term looks very good. And I think in a couple of years, you'll be in a very good position. So hopefully that makes sense. We're going to be back. We're going to continue this conversation after a quick break here on the Duncan Duo Show. So we're back here on the Duncan Duo Show talking about the Tampa Bay real estate market. So a couple days ago, the Federal Reserve came out and cut interest rates, the short-term interest rates. And, every time we get a Fed rate cut, and I talked about this in the first segment of the show, there's this confusion about what's happening with mortgage rates. So I want to kind of dispel this myth a little bit, because what we saw this week is when the Fed cut rates, mortgage rates actually went up, because the mortgage market had already priced in the Fed rate cut. There was a hope or a belief that maybe the one guy on the board of governors, there was some small chance that he would convince other people to do a 50 basis point cut, and then mortgage rates would drop more. But they didn't, because the market, as I said in the first segment, moves ahead of the data or the news or the policy, because it predicted it. So you didn't see mortgage rates drop. And, realistically, the Fed came out with, Chairman Powell had a speech afterwards, and he talked about how it is not a foregone conclusion, far from it, he actually said, of the interest rates being cut again this year. So the chance of another Fed rate cut got reduced. Now, I still think it happens, and they're kind of flying blind right now with the government shutdown and a lack of data. And the probability on all of the prediction markets are all still saying 60, 70% that they cut rates again. But it's not a lock, okay? So that being said, as we get closer to that date, I think we'll see a little bit more softening of interest rates. But I want everyone to understand, if you're waiting for 3% interest rates again, you're never going to see them. You're going to wait forever. Okay. And if they ever do show up, you'll be too late. You'll miss it because everyone will have moved in anticipation of that. And I believe the bigger story, as in terms of the positive impact on our market, is the property tax reform that's being discussed. And of course, another year without a hurricane. So if you're going to wait for interest rates to get to that number, you might as well just wait forever, or find the DeLorean and go back in time, because you're not seeing 3% interest rates again. It's just not going to happen. We're not far off from the lowest point we're going to get to. We're kind of in that mid-level historically. The rates that we have right now are pretty good. They're average. When rates are really, really low, it's because there's some sort of phenomenon that they have to move that low in order to overcome something. If we have rates that low, there's going to be a lot of other economic problems, in terms of where we're at today. I do think we'll see some more cuts next year if President Trump gets his Fed chair pick and he's able to kind of guide things the right way. But by no means do I think we're going to see massive cuts based on the economy and the data that's coming out. So if you're waiting for those rates to drop and you wait too long, and then the news comes out or the vote comes out about property tax relief, that will move the market greater than interest rates. So the Fed cut is the short-term rate, not the long-term rate that mortgage are. There is some correlation. But nonetheless, there are other factors. There's, some of the quantitative changes that are being announced will have some impact. And then it's just a matter of what margin banks are willing to operate at to be able to get rates low. Could we see the high 4s again next year? Maybe. But we're probably not far off from, being, kind of at the low point without causing other problems or other problems in the economic system, rearing their ugly head. So as a home buyer, now is the time. I mentioned this before, great opportunity to buy right now, but I want to speak to people right now that are in a mortgage with a rate above 7. If you have a rate above 7 and you have an FHA or a VA mortgage, okay, there's a product called a streamline refinance, and this is perfect timing for the holidays. A lot of people struggle through the holidays. There have been layoffs. There's economic problems that people are struggling with, and you could do a streamline refinance that lowers your interest rate and potentially, depending on the timing, allows you to skip a payment. If your rate's above 7, it may make sense for you to do this, and you would lower your payment and give yourself some economic relief. So if you're someone who has that rate and you're in a VA or an FHA, you can do that streamline. Now, the streamline refinance does not require you to qualify from an income perspective. It doesn't require your property to appraise. It is streamlined. It is simply lowering your rate for the most part. It is a very easy process. Go to citywidetampa.com. Melissa or Oscar or Morgan will reach out to you and help you through this process. Again, it's citywidetampa.com. Definitely an opportunity for people to lower their payments, to stabilize themselves financially, and it's a good time to do it with the end of the year approaching. And so I talked before about how we've had these Fed rate cuts, and we've seen interest rates at their lowest point in probably 18 months. And I think we're going to see it drop a little bit more. Statistics are saying of a Fed rate cut in December is a probability in the 60 to 70% range. As it gets closer to that, maybe the government opens again, there's more data that comes out. I think there's a reasonable chance that percentage goes up. And as it gets closer to that date, we'll see mortgage rates slide down again. So I think there's a really good chance of some more relief if you time it right. If you go to Citywide, again, citywidetampa.com is our preferred mortgage company. Talk to them. They'll run the statistics. They'll verify the type of loan that you have, and then they'll see, are you able to very easily, without qualifying, without your income, without appraisal, not your credit. They're already on the hook for you for the money. So the government-backed mortgages with FHA and VA will literally lower your rate through a streamlined refinance. It's a great product, and one that I think this time of year and with the economy and the situation that we're in is one that you should take a look at. Not a lot of people know about it. oftentimes we get people that make the mistake of doing more of a traditional refinance out of a VA or FHA loan and incur, hoops and costs and different things. So again, citywidetampa.com, it could save you a payment, and it could save you a lot of money this year. And definitely something I recommend. So we'll be back. We're going to continue this conversation after a quick break here on the Duncan Duo Real Estate Show. So we're back here on the Duncan Duo Show talking about the Tampa Bay real estate market. First segment, I talked about, just kind of overall economics of everything happening with rates, what I'm seeing in our market, why I believe more people are going to move here. Second segment, I talked about our streamlined refinance with our partner at Citywide Mortgage, citywidetampa.com. What I want to talk about next is specifically to real estate agents. And, my company, having been around for 20 years, we've got policies and procedures and standards that we've kind of operated on for a really long time. And one of those things is that we wouldn't hire people to list homes from the outside. We coached them up from the inside. We said, hey, look, you're going to come over and you're going to work buyer leads, and then you'll have the ability to kind of graduate and work to seller leads. And because of the amount of advertising I'm doing and the kind of the turning of the market, we are getting way more seller leads than we can keep up with. And we've just found that it is time for us to start hiring and attracting agents that can list homes for us from the outside. So if you're someone that's looked at my company in the past and you said, nope, I don't want to go there because I can't list there, I can't join their listing team, that is no longer. We are looking to hire 4 listing agents right now before the end of the year because of the major buys that we're making. Experienced agents, a listing agent for us from the outside, we're going to want you to have some substantial transactions, some experience, and then we can coach you how to be a great listing agent with all the lead generation that we're doing. And as well, teach you on the investing side where we do our instant cash offers and our guaranteed sales. So the listing process is different with my company because of those things. But we are looking to hire 4. We just signed up for a really big portion of Realtor.com Market VIP, which is going to also fuel a lot of buyer leads and a lot of seller leads for our company, in addition to all the mass media that we do. So you can go to jointheduo.com. You can set up a Calendly link for a consultation. You can send us a message through there. You can DM us at any of our social media channels if you're interested in becoming a listing agent, if you've got some experience. And I don't mean we can coach work ethic. We're hoping that someone's had, at least a dozen or so transactions in the marketplace before we'll look at them in a listing agent role for us. And ultimately you would be coached and led by very experienced listing agents. Some of them have been on my team for, nearly 10 years, and partnered with me on my rehab, my reno business. So you will get great coaching, great leadership, and an amazing amount of leads, and be able to focus on listing homes. So if that is of interest, again, jointheduo.com. You can sign up there. You can apply for any one of our open positions. You can also go direct to a link and set a Calendly appointment where you'll have a one-on-one consultation. And it's a listing agent for us. I'm going to personally coach you. Okay, so our listing agents, I have a huddle call with them every day. I have a meeting with them every week, and I provide them one-on-one coaching and consultation. So you're getting the best of the best, someone that's been in the market for a long time, sold $3 billion in sales, and I'm going to take a vested interest in helping you succeed. So if that's something of interest, again, jointheduo.com or hit us up on all of our social channels at The Duncan Duo on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, pretty much every single social media outlet out there. Again, at The Duncan Duo. Hit us up if you're thinking about a change, if you're unhappy, maybe you've not been taught how to list homes, maybe maybe you're not converting, maybe where you're at doesn't have enough lead opportunity. All of those things are things that we are ramping up. I am so confident that 26 and 27 are going to be better that I have literally nearly doubled my advertising spend as we head into the end of the year to prepare us for growth in the next couple of years. So again, you're listening to the Duncan Duo Real Estate Show. When we aren't on air, always hit our socials. But if you're a home seller, a homeowner, and you're frustrated, and your house has been on the market, you've listed it with someone else, it's failed to sell, you've gone through multiple agents, or you inherited a property, or you've got a property that needs a lot of work, a rental property that you don't want to deal with anymore, we offer an instant cash offer outlet. We have one right now that we went under contract. We're closing in a week. Okay. So if you want quick cash and you just want out, okay, this is the path for you. Just hit up DuncanDuo.com, type in your information. My team's going to reach out. We'll set up an appointment to take a look at the house. We are different than the typical, kind of bait and switch buyers that are out there. The reason I say that is because they'll make you fill out an online form. You're going to generate an offer online, and they're going to tell you, here's our offer. Then they're going to come out and look at the house and they're going to beat you down. They're going to say, oh, well, you didn't tell us this or you didn't tell us that. Okay. And then they're going to throw in some fees in there. And then they're going to say, you got to close at this date and you got to be out by this date. It's going to take this much time. And they're going to make you jump through a bunch of hoops. They're corporate America. They're a great big hedge fund. Okay. I'm not that. My fund is, funded and supported by my business personally, locally. We are a lot more flexible. We can close fast. There's homes that those companies. So if you've gone online and typed in and looked and seen it, and one of those companies, you don't like their terms or they won't buy your house because of one thing or another, we might. Okay. So we do have the instant cash. It is the right option for a lot of people. It is not the right option if you want maximum cash. Okay. If you want the highest amount, the retail market is the right place for you. If you want the best convenience, the cash offer program is the right path. The reason why they're different is because no one is going to put their cash into something that they can't get a return on investment, especially while I believe the real estate market is starting to turn the corner, and I believe the next year or two is going to be great, it's not there yet. So if you're in a tough financial position, if you've inherited, if you've got a bad rental property, all of those things are reasons why you might just say, you know what, or you've got an investment opportunity in something else, and you've got to liquidate a property or two. So you can go to DuncanDuo.com. Again, just fill out your form, ask for a cash offer, and we'll reach out and see what we can do to help. Again, it's the convenient path, not the highest price path. And our team will sit with you and give you your options. They'll say, hey, look, this is why we think the cash offer is right for you. If your house needs a lot of work, maybe you can't put it into the condition that'll get it to qualify for financing and the cash offer is right, like I said, or if your motivation levels to a certain extent. But there are times where we'll meet with someone that wants a cash offer and we'll say, look, here's what we would get on cash offer, but your house is in such good condition, we should go on the retail market. So we're going to give you your options and let you pick. There are a lot of companies out there that don't do it that way, but we offer a hybrid model and we're local. Our everything's going back into the local community. This isn't supported by some Wall Street, hedge fund that's taking the profits and distributing them to shareholders. These are local people, my local team that has a financial vested interest in the success of the business, and they're contributing to charities locally. They're paying taxes locally. They're living here locally, giving to the schools, and so I'm a firm believer that there's a segment of the population that looks at the home buying process in terms of an instant cash, and they're turned off by the big guys that are just Wall Street. They're just taking over the industry. We're not that. Ours is local people. So again, just hit up DuncanDuo.com if that's something you're interested in. Again, DuncanDuo.com. So I've got some guests coming on the show over the next couple of weeks. Next week, we'll have two guests. We'll have Melissa Rodriguez with Citywide Home Mortgage, who's been on the show a few times. We'll get to talk to her about trends in mortgage as we get towards the end of the year. I've got Justin Caballero from Revive Design and Renovation that's going to come on and talk about the difference between why renovate versus why sell and buy. There are plenty of people out there that constantly have the debate of, should I renovate the house or should I sell it and buy another one? So we'll have those, and we've got some home builders coming on as well. And speaking of home building, this is one of those areas where, I want to really encourage first-time home buyers. If you or someone or your kids are thinking about buying a first-time home, some of the worst horror stories I hear with first-time home buyers are when they buy a product that isn't really right for first-time home buyers. And here's what I mean by that. First-time home buyers are used to living in an apartment, used to having a landlord that they can just call up and fix anything, okay? They're used to that. And so When you rip that Band-Aid off and sell them a bungalow in Seminole Heights, a lot of times it doesn't, a 100-year-old bungalow, a lot of times it doesn't go well. A lot of problems. You're going to have maintenance. You're going to have repairs. You're going to have things break because it's a 100-year-old house. It's going to be expensive. And it turns off and spooks a lot of home buyers because they've heard the horror stories from their friends that have done those things, okay? It looks great on TV. It looks great on House Hunters. It sounds sexy to renovate your house and make it your own and take this historic thing and make it cool, okay? But they're really experienced people that fail at that too. So as a rookie, my strong recommendation to first-time homebuyers is buying a brand new construction house. We can help you with that. There are incentives of working with an agent. We can make sure to negotiate and get the best deal for you. We know the offerings from the different builders. We know the different communities. We know the pros, the cons of those communities. But financially, you're going to get lower taxes, lower insurance, and typically lower maintenance costs because you have a warranty. It's kind of like the step up from, the apartment life to being a homeowner, because you still have the builder to call to fix stuff because you're under warranty, okay? You don't have as much to take care of and as much to go wrong because it's new, okay? It doesn't mean there's nothing. It's a man-made product. Things can fail. You can still get roof leaks when the storms hit, okay? But there are less issues, okay? So to me, first-time homebuyers should really, really look at new construction, something we can help you with. But new construction provides, the warranty. It provides some lower costs, easier utility bills, lower insurance bills, and kind of a stepping stone to home ownership, to where maybe the second or third home you can buy the historic bungalow and you've gotten used to being a homeowner and you understand the process. But just this past month, we've had 2 people come to us that didn't buy with us, bought with someone else, and bought historic bungalow, trendy neighborhood kind of stuff that's 100 years old. They've lived in it for a year and they are ready to go. Okay. They are ready to check out. So if you're a first-time home buyer, please listen, proceed with caution if you're going to buy an older house. Okay. And even if you don't go brand new construction, the newer the home, the less likely you are to have obstacles as a first-time home buyer. It allows you to kind of move and not skip the process. Too many people want to skip the process. They want to go right to their dream home. And unfortunately, unless you have an unlimited budget, it's probably not happening. So it's part of the stepping stone process of becoming a homeowner and getting acquainted with home ownership. So hopefully that helps you. But I believe so many buyers in the marketplace would be better served by looking at new construction first, and even weighing it from a standpoint of, even if it's not quite the area that you want to be in, it's in a 15-minute extra drive for you every day, but it checks off all of these boxes and will save you money on all of these things, then it may be the path. And, we've got a lot of great builders and builders that are offering incredible incentives right now with interest rates and different things that we can help negotiate. So strong proponent of first-time homebuyers looking at new construction. We'll be back. We're going to continue and wrap up our show with the last segment after a quick break here on the Duncan Duo Real Estate Show. So we're back here on the Duncan Duo Show talking about the Tampa Bay real estate market. Andrew Duncan with the Duncan Duo. When we aren't on air at the Duncan Duo, if you're an experienced agent that wants to get great at listing homes, we are hiring. Hit up jointheduo.com or message us on any of our social channels. Again, jointheduo.com or at the Duncan Duo, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. Send us a DM and we'll get you started on the process of potentially joining our team as a listing agent. We are looking to hire 4 because our business is blowing up and we are launching into some new advertising in 26, 27, and we need to coach some agents up. I'll be personally coaching you, on a daily basis and, helping you grow, not just helping you learn how to list homes, but you'll have the opportunity to learn how to invest, how to flip real estate, how to work on our rehab team that helps and has the opportunity to invest in projects that we buy, renovate, and resell. So again, jointheduo.com for that. But I want to talk next about the bane of my existence, solar panels. If you are a home buyer, okay, I want you to understand that selling a home with solar panels that you still owe money on is like the scarlet letter of real estate. Okay. I can't encourage you enough to not get solar panels the way that they're structured today, unless you're buying them in their entirety. Okay. Unless you're writing a check to pay them off, or you're going to do it before you sell the house. Selling the house and assuming that the buyer is going to want solar panels, okay, or that they're going to take over payments in an environment and economy that we have today, literally kills so many home sales. I cannot tell you how many times homes don't sell because the homeowner thought that everyone would love solar. They bought the sales pitch from the really good salesperson that knocked on their door to sell them solar, that it's going to make the home more valuable. We are not in the planet yet. We're not in the world yet where it's making your property more valuable, unless you're on some estate type property, a ranch, income producing with animals, something. Then maybe solar would be valuable. But for the everyday homeowner, it's a nuisance. Most homeowners don't want it. Most homeowners don't want to have the leak. They don't want the ugly thing on their roof. They don't want the payments. They don't want to take over your high interest rate loan. They don't want it. So if you're thinking about solar, or you have solar, pay it off if you can, or your house isn't going to sell because every buyer is going to click next, okay? Or don't do it unless you're going to live in the home long enough to pay it off. It literally, I cannot tell you how often solar panels and the cost of them destroy home sales. The way the language is worded in most of the agreements makes it impossible to transfer that to someone else or assign that loan to someone else. Sometimes it's leased. So, I mean, it's some of the deals that people enter into for things that permanently attach to your home make it impossible to get your home sold. It is the scarlet letter. Realtors will avoid your house. Buyers that have looked at homes and figured out what it would cost that don't want solar, you shrink your buying pool dramatically by assuming that the buyer wants your solar panels. The majority of them don't. The majority of them will, in the inspection, will find something wrong. You bought the sales pitch from the solar guy. I get it. Okay. Pay it off. All right. Or don't do it. If you're looking at doing it now and you're going to sell your house in the next couple of years, run. Okay. Run. It has cost so many homeowners tens of thousands of dollars in equity and homes not selling because they're trying to stick that solar panel deal to the next buyer that doesn't want it. The buyer wants that ripped off the roof. The buyer doesn't want the solar. They don't want the risk that it's going to start leaking or that the holes in the roof are going to cause a problem. Or guess what? In case you haven't noticed, we get hurricanes. How well do you think those solar panels do? And how great is it on your roof when it's getting hit with 120 mile an hour winds? Okay. So again, if you're going to stay in that house for the long term and you're going to pay off the panels, great. Okay. Understand it's a personal choice. If you have any intention of selling that home, before you enter into that agreement, I would tell you to think twice. Talk to a few real estate agents and they will tell you the horror stories. We are in, it's Halloween time, right? It is the season. We're about to become Thanksgiving and Christmas, but we're kind of at the tail end here of Halloween. If we're talking horror stories for real estate, ask any real estate agent and they can tell you it's like the Chinese drywall of back many years ago with how bad the scarlet letter and labeling is of the home when it's got solar. Do not do it. And look, I'm probably going to get some hate messages from pro solar people saying solar is the best thing ever. And I agree. Like, look, I'm a proponent of it. When I move out to the country, I'm going to have it, right? But it's not going to be on my roof. And it's going to be my forever home, and I'm going to write a check for it. If you can't afford buying it and writing a check for the solar, don't do it. The deals, it blows up deals all day long, every day, and the buyers are not educated enough to understand the value prop, and there's too many horror stories, and they don't want it. The majority of them don't want it. It's why the majority of Americans don't have solar panels. If you drive through any neighborhood, any cookie cutter neighborhood in Tampa Bay, you drive through. That's why the majority of the homes don't have solar panels on the roof, because the majority of consumers don't want it. You shrink your buyer pool, you're killing yourself financially, you're making it way harder to sell, and it's going to cost you way more money than you think to get out of that deal or to try and get the buyer to accept. Either buy them if you can afford them, write a check. If you can't afford it, don't do it. It's not going to help sell your home if you're going to be forced to sell it in the next couple of years. So hopefully this PSA is helpful. Again, I deal with it all the time. My agents deal with it all the time. and it always messes up a sale, hurts a person's equity, shrinks their buyer pool. Again, the times that it doesn't, if it's paid off, okay, and if you find a buyer that wants it, okay, again, it's like a needle in a haystack, right? It's just not evolved to the point of being as accepted as people want it to be. The people that buy it or the salespeople that sell it to you, it's just not as accepted yet. It causes too many problems. So if you're one of those people that has to sell a home with solar panels, look, we're still here to help you. But an instant cash offer may be the path for you, because then that person can deal with it. Then that person can buy it out and pay you cash and remove it, but you're going to take a hit to your equity, and you just don't realize it. So many solar salespeople are not telling you the cons. They're telling you all the pros, okay? But when you go to sell the house in 2 years, like I said, scarlet letter. And we appreciate you tuning in. Every Sunday we're here at 10 on WFLA Knows when we aren't on air at the Duncan Duo or DuncanDuo.com. And I hope you have an awesome rest of your weekend, Tampa Bay.